will be joining in a bit while. Meanwhile, we will continue with our talk. So, good evening, everyone. To all my fellow Bitsians, a very warm welcome to Career Week 2026, hosted by Bits Embryo. For years, Embryo has been the bridge between classroom and the real world. So, this week we have been exploring the diverse landscapes of the professional world, but today we dive into the most transformative force of our generation: artificial intelligence and machine learning. Himanshi, you are on mute.
For those just starting out, AI can feel intimidating. Today, we aren't just here to talk about the tech, we are here to talk about the roadmap. How do you go ahead from student in a hostel room to a leader in the AI industry? To help us navigate this, we have three incredible bits and leaders who have mastered the transition from campus life to the cutting edge of AI innovation.
So, before we begin, let me introduce our esteemed panelists. First up is Mr. Vivek Mittal. Vivek Mittal is the founder of Minions, where he uses advanced AI to completely change how government contracts are handled. He is also the co-founder of Yugasa Bot, an award-winning AI platform that acts as a virtual receptionist for hospitals in over 100 languages. With four patents and a strong background in machine learning, Vivek is a master at using AI to remove human errors and help businesses grow.
Joining us next is Akhil Singhal, the Chief AI Product Officer at Emplay. Backed by SAP.io, Akhil is leading the way in hyper automation through a platform called Zinger. He helps big companies get more done by using AI to handle complicated tasks instead of relying purely on manual effort. If you want to know how AI can help sales and support teamwork faster and more independently, AI is the expert making it. Akhil is the expert making it happen. Gentlemen, the floor is yours, and we'd love to hear about your journeys and what initially drew you towards this field of AI.
Vivek, you please start first.
Sure, Akhil. So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm not sure what is the pattern of this session. So I had few slides prepared for this. So if required, I can share the slides, and otherwise we can have an open discussion also. Himanshi, what would you suggest here?
However you prefer, sir, and if you want to share slides, please go ahead.
Okay. So let me start with sharing the slides then. And we will be very casual and open during the session for taking any questions or any kind of discussions. So let me start with sharing here. Okay, so first of all, thanks a lot for having me here, the whole BITS team. Good afternoon to everyone, and it's wonderful to be part of this event. I'm not sure whether there was a physical part of it also or not, in-person event, but as I understand that this was a 3 days event, so I really wanted to be part of it physically by being physically present there. But because of the previous week going very hectic because of this AI Impact Summit, I could not make it in person there. But I'll try to be effective through this discussion as I would have been during an in-person session. So to start with, I would also like to know from the students or the attendees of this event, how many of you are seriously considering AI or machine learning as a career? And how many of them are just here to know about the domain, new domain, and are they really pursuing this as their curriculum, or how is it? What is the kind of audience we have here? If you are looking for a career in AI, can you please type yes in the chat box? Okay, great. Also, we have so all these students are, I'm assuming they are studying AI and ML also. So today in this discussion, I want to keep it very casual, and I'm not going to give a textbook lecture here, though I have prepared the slides. But I will prefer to share real insights from my 23 years of experience and what actually works and what doesn't, and how can you position yourself for this success. So a little bit about me. Back in 2004, I have actually walked in the same shoes. I have faced the same placement anxieties and wondered about my future, just like every student is doing today. Uh, at that time, computers were introduced, and today it's that AI is getting introduced. So I started as a software engineer working in an electronics company, Motorola. There were no traces of AI back then. And I have witnessed the transformation from electronics to computers to automation, then to AI now. And since last 10 years, I am into entrepreneurship, and I have built an AI first company from ground up. So in a way, I have been on both sides of the table. So I have been an anxious student, and I have also been a hiring manager. So I have reviewed and interviewed a lot of people. I have reviewed thousands of resume, and I have built teams. Right. So that is the experience which I'm going to share today, and I'll try to make sense out of my presence here and my time and your time here.
Thanks, Vivek, for sharing that. Akhil, would you like to add on to that? How did you uh, grow into this field of AI?
Sure, sure. Thank you, Vivek. So I started as mechanical engineer out of Goa campus. Got placed into Cognizant back then. There was an opening in mechanical field as well. National AC company wanted people for floor managers, right? But that was not something which I was really willing to do. I never had a lot of interest in going to factories and working out there. So I took up Cognizant's offer, did my training over there, and then back in 2010, Music was all the rage, right? So analytics and was being picked up, and Music by introduced did not really require you to have any statistics knowledge. But in any case, in third year, you get your operation research and optimization related courses, which help you to understand how the OR works, how optimization works, and how statistical modeling works, right? So I started from Music Bug, went in there, and that's where my AI career started, right? Or more back then, it was not really called AI career; it was more of data science career or business analytics career, where you are working with statistical models. And right, so I spent time at Visigma, then went to Sabre Airline Solutions because I was into airline domain at Visigma, and hence I continued that as a business analyst at Sabre. Then I went to IIM Bangalore, completed my MBA. Post that, I joined Tredence. Tredence is again an analytics services company, just like Visigma. A lot of bits are present there as well. So again, back to analytics, where I was doing services delivery, the pre-sales work. And then, like Vivek, I took a plunge into entrepreneurship, set up my own company. About 2 years back, I parted ways with that company to get back because I wanted to get more into product, and that company was more services. And then joined Emplay here as the product manager and leading their product division. So last 16 years, all have been associated with different phases of AI, as I've seen things world move from using SAS to R to Python, and now more to vibe coding for doing anything and everything. And I'm happy to answer any questions, share experiences around how to break into AI today as a fresher. Or, I mean, I would not just call it breaking into AI, breaking into being a data scientist at a particular firm, right? Like people don't really hire AI engineers. If they want to hire business analysts or data scientists who can do end-to-end roles into large firms. So how to break into that and where the world is evolving to.
That was a
Thanks, Akhil.
really interesting journey, Mr. Akhil. And I'd also like to introduce our third panelist, Mr. Vishnu Ramesh. So, Mr. Vishnu Ramesh is an experienced Bitsian founder and the main leader behind Astra.ai. Vishnu is solving a huge problem in the pharma industry. So, he has built a smart AI assistant that works directly inside MS Word. It helps writers finish important medical reports much faster. And this isn't just about saving time on writing, it's about helping life saving drugs reach patients sooner.
Hey, thanks for that, Bhavya. Hi, everyone. I'm a BITS Hyderabad grad, so graduated in 2019. I think towards the end of college, I'd met this professor called Manish Srivastava out in Triple IT Hyderabad. Not a very well-known fact, but Triple IT actually has some of the top like AIML researchers in the country, along with IT Mumbai. I started running behind him for 2 months, convinced him to take me in as an intern. Spent about a year doing some good work with him. Then the prof and I had actually spun out our first document AI startup out of some of the initial work we had done there. It was a company called Subtle. We were taking these transformer models or like SLMs, right? Small versions of models. We figured out how to create domain tool versions of them, deploy it privately for our customers. We had done some work for State Bank of India at the peak of that company. That was a lot of fun, but then also SBI is a very difficult customer to scale out of, right? Like you get them as the first customer, it becomes difficult to do things outside of them. Took our learnings out of it, and then that's when I said TK, second startup also I want to do something document AI focused because that's what I like to do, that's what I enjoy to do. But I said I'll do something in life sciences, right? So I started looking for a good co-founder. That's when I met Guru. He's a physician by background, AIIMS Delhi. Spent 16 years in healthcare. So Guru is the one that came and told me about this whole opportunity, right? About pharma submissions and things like that. So yeah, over today, happy to share things I've learned in the previous startup, the current startup, and of course we'll add on to whatever Akhil and Vivek have to say about breaking into a field like this.
Those were some really interesting journeys. So nowadays, it has been a huge discussion on the campus that I hear all the time. That should students still be grinding away at C++ and DSA, or is it smarter now to just master prompting AI agents? So, what are your opinions on this?
Look, I'm sorry, I'll just go first. My opinion on this is I still think you should know the fundamentals of coding, because you can be a judge of what is good code or bad code only once you know how to build it yourself. So I think those fundamentals are definitely super important to have. Does that mean someone without any knowledge of coding can't build applications? No, they definitely can. But if you really want an edge, the people that will have an edge will be the ones that understand software inside out.
Correct. So while at college, you're there to learn, right? You subsidize or you use AI to do work for you, and that work makes you money. That is where you should use AI, right? Learning prompting is nothing. If you know your field, then you can. So Anthropic just did a hackathon, right? 7-day hackathon they had. The person who got third place in that hackathon is a cardiologist who was vibe coding an application in between operations and on the slide and all, right? And while he has vibe coded an application which will help other cardiologists explain their findings to the patients in an easy manner, and it won the third prize. Now, is it HIPAA compliant? No, right? Will it float as an enterprise? Will it keep everybody's data secure? Will it be like Boltbook, which exposed 50,000 people's keys because it's a vibe coded application, right? So it makes easy to make prototypes, but it doesn't make it easy to make enterprise grade applications. And why only think about coding? AI makes it easy to understand any domain. You could understand what laws are meant or saying, what a Supreme Court judgment said, what a politician is saying. You can understand about any topic out there in the world using AI, and understand its basics. But if you want to have some mastery inside of it, you have to go deep dive yourself and reason it out, right? So in college, your job is to learn, and whatever you want to be master in, learn that field, and then say that I will. Once I have learned it enough, I'm in the job now. There, feel free to use AI to get your job done, right? But not during college, not writing your assignments using AI and just saying that I'm going to learn prompting. And prompt engineer is not a role out there. It's just like saying that I will learn how to write good English essays, or I would learn how to do word problems correctly, right? So yeah, you need to look at it a bit, and you will learn it very fairly quickly. In fact, the best prompts today are written by AI, right? When we deploy multi-agentic systems, and people like prompts, they write shitty prompts. Those prompts have conflicting things said within them, and they are not optimized at all, then we optimize those prompts using AI LLMs for to instruct other LLM agents, right? So prompting is not even a skill anymore because the prompts are being written by AI. So it's not about prompting. It's not about saying that, hey, I learn to how to use AI. Inputting AI and using AI is a simple thing. Everybody can use it. It's not about that at all. If you want to make a career in data science, then you not just C++, you need to be understanding how statistics works, how have we come to LLMs, and how all of these things before that worked, right? Because not everything is about LLMs. I mean, you can't build a forecasting model using LLMs. You have to still know how to run forecasting models on your own. So focus on that so that in your data science role when you land, you know all the statistics, you know the basics of what languages to use, what code to use, what packages to use, and then you can use AI to do your work faster. Right? A long answer, but I hope it landed. Over to you, Vivek.
Yes,
Definitely makes
that was
sense. And
really insightful.
I would like to build upon on what Vishnu and Akhil just now mentioned from a different point of view, a little bit different point of view. So definitely we need to be in touch with the fundamentals. The basics are very, very important. But as my experience and what we are doing in our organization today, we cannot subsidize the role of AI or prompt engineering very much. So still, even though I advocate having strong fundamentals and strong basics, I would say that I would go to an extent even saying that coding as a skill is not going to be a necessity anymore in very near future. Coding as such. So knowing fundamentals is different thing, and coding yourself is totally another thing. So you are not going to need to do coding yourself in very near future. So that is what my point of view is on this. But yes, fundamentals are definitely their basics and they are a must to have.
Yeah, so you don't need to know syntax anymore, right?
Yeah,
But
you don't
used
need
to have
syntax aware or
but-
so you need
correct.
to know coding up to the extent only that the code which is written by AI, you are able to review that and you are
Yeah,
able to understand that.
correctly.
You
Correct.
don't
So
really need to actually code.
yeah, you need systems thinking, right? Systems thinking in the sense that if you're going to do a app on your own, should it use Postgres? Should you use MongoDB? Or should you just say that data volume isn't high enough and I'm going to use JSON-B field on Postgres? Now, if all of that just went above head, then vibe coded application would also be similarly above head for you, right? So understanding these basics, saying that, hey, what does an enterprise application really is if I'm going to be a software engineer, right? Like if I'm going to be a data scientist, then I would be saying same thing about understanding what Aremax is and how NNM flags are put on it, right? When I say what is normal distribution, then understanding what a normal distribution really means, what does linear regression really mean. So if you don't really understand those, there will be a problem. I'll give you an example. I have this guy in my team, and we have a forecasting project from our client. So while we were trying to assign the right resource, he thought, why not? He's an account manager, so he's a fantastic guy, fantastic account manager, right? But not really a data scientist. So he thought, why not use Cloud Code and see what can be done, right? And then he sent me an output, and he said, this output has come. I'm like, I'm not going to read through this output, which a code written by Cloud Code has been done. You explain it to me, or you understand what is this, and then tell me. But he has no idea of it. So he is like, no, I asked Cloud Code, it ran, the code ran, and the output came. Can you interpret it? I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that, right? And this has become a constant problem where people create 30-page documents and then send it across and say, can you review this and tell? No, it's gonna take 2 hours to read the document and carefully say everything, review everything on it. It took me 30 minutes to just write it because you gave a prompt, I iterated it a few times, and then send it across to me, right? So you should read your own AI generated output, vet it out, and then send it across, right? And similarly, like Vivek said, basics have to be clear, and not just basics in one field. That is the key thing now. It's not only about one field. You cannot just say I'm a data scientist and I know Python. You have to be a systems engineer who can connect 2-3 different type of things together to get an end-to-end application done, right? So not knowing React is not an excuse anymore. Like you can learn enough React so that you can oversee what AI is doing. You can learn enough data systems to build databases in the backend. You can learn enough Celery, enough Python to actually build workers which are going to run in parallel and understand how Docker works and Kubernetes work, right? All of this can be learned using AI, enough that you can use AI agents to then make it happen with them, right? That is the key thing, right? What is that line where you say that I know this enough and I'm going to now utilize AI for rest of it? Himanshi or
Thank you
Ashwini?
so much, Akhil, for sharing that. A lot of students from different backgrounds are doubtful whether they can enter such a massive field like AI and ML, and even they do have the perfect skills for that. What would be your advice be for them?
So even though it's a big field, but as Akhil was mentioning that in a hackathon, the third ranker was a cardiologist or a doctor. So it's if taken systematically, I think it's easy to enter in also. And right now is the most opportune time, I think, to start riding this wave, because as I recall, when I started my career, after that, this mobile app era came into picture, right? In 2008, smartphones came into and mobile app. Now today, there is hardly a business which we can imagine, B2C business, which will not have a mobile app, right? So this shift took, I think, 15 years to happen. But this is not the time which AI is gonna take. It is much more faster now. So even though it's the start of wave, but riding it right now is very crucial. It's very important. So entering it, so don't wait to be a perfectionist or to enter into it when you are perfect. Just enter into it, get your hands dirty. So as we just now were discussing that fundamentals are important. So just brush up your fundamentals and some skills like knowing Python, or data structures, or certain tools like Git or versioning, that will actually, I think, get you going. And once you know these things, start joining communities, start joining hackathons, and enter into the field as soon as possible, because toy projects are in plenty today, so everybody can make a project in AI using ChatGPT or any LLM very quickly. Taking them to productization is a different ball game altogether, and that is what you have to practice, you have to prepare for, because without that you are in the crowd, and you are not able to stand out if you are just playing with the toy projects and certain very simple projects to just put them in your resume. That's not going to help you, because everybody is doing that today. So that is what my opinion is on this, how you should brush up your academic skills and prepare to enter into the market.
Correct. Like your branch doesn't matter, right? When it comes to hiring for data scientists or business analysts, pretty much branch agnostic. Primarily because not like there are a lot of AI branches out there. Even a lot of colleges which give AI related undergrad degrees are essentially CS with few courses extra, right? So when it comes to premier colleges like this, it doesn't really matter what branch you're coming from. It's only about, so at least back in 2010, it was only about that, are you quick at your feet and thinking? So can you crack a CAT style paper which had like 30 questions to crack in 20 minutes? And then can you do a JD, and can you do an interview round? And like they were asking things like, I wrote on my resume, I like baking. Like, so can you tell me a cake recipe? That was all the interview they took away music, right? But today, obviously, it is ahead of that, right? But then again, basics still don't go away in terms of quick thinking on the feet. So being able to solve business use cases. If I ask you a question like, how many tennis balls are sold in India every year? So guesstimation question, right? It's classic questions. If you're not able to solve that, then I don't really care what projects you have on a GitHub, because like Vivek said, everybody can copy projects. And it was true before AI also. People used to just copy blog posts from Medium and then say that they were their project. So they used to join an online course which would have a guided project and build those and then show. Right. So after some, if you interview enough people, you would be like, same project I've seen on like 4 people, different people's resume, because they all went to same Udemy course and then did the course from there and build that project out. Right. But like Vivek also said, depth is what really matters. Right. You come and tell me, oh, I put a chatbot which does RAG on these 50 documents and it gave good answers. And now I'll start asking you questions like, oh, so how did you think about compound questions? If somebody asked a question which was presented two different DAG documents, how have you solved for that? How have you solved for slide decks? How did you give page numbers in Word files? And if you have not done any depth on it, then you will not have answers to this, because you did not really take it to production. You just did a toy project, like Vivek said, which essentially takes clean data, puts a code on top of it, and it gives you the answer. And people have been doing this forever. Right. So I've seen this happen for linear regression, forecasting, cluster clustering kind of projects in 2010s, and then in 2011s and 12, 13, till up to 2020, it was all about a little bit of GPM models, neural networks. I've done some NLP on bag of word models, and now it's about setting up agents the same way.
In
So-
fact, clean data is also abundantly available for toy projects. So in real
Correct.
projects, the data cleaning itself
It's messy.
is a task.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So something called deliberate thinking is what is required. If you build a project or if you describe a skill on a resume, then you should know like 4 or 5 different levels of it so that you can answer questions. You don't obviously are not perfect, you're a fresher. But if I see that, oh, the depth is present, the person is smart, thinks on their feet, the depth is present, and I don't really know what you have done. You can lie through your teeth. Don't quote me on that, but confidently, right? Which requires planning. You can't just do it on the feet all the time, right? So if you've planned well, if you've thought about scenarios, if this project is being utilized here, what can go wrong? Use ChatGPT to do that simulation. Prepare answers for those also, right? So interview performance is important as much as gathering skill sets, right? Like skill sets would later be important when you get to the org, and you might get fired because you can't perform what you said. But if you want to get to the interview, then have a nice resume, talk about things on it, and have full confidence on what you have done. Prepare really, really well on those, and then the rest everything will follow through. Vishnu, what has been your experience?
Yeah, I think for me, look, guys, I'll be honest. Honestly, in like college, I didn't study that much. I think it was towards the end of college when I met Manish that I started understanding that, like, hey, these transformer models, like, there's so much cool stuff that you can really do with it. I think so. For me, the learning really happened like on the job, right? So I think the most valuable thing I can say for this would be like find problems that you care about and then start trying to figure out how to solve for them, right? And there's like no shortage of problems today. It could mean that like you look up like startups that you like out there and you find like really specific problems in what they're doing. If you even reach out to like 20 founders and tell them that, hey, this is a specific problem you seem to have, I would like to come on board as an intern and solve for it. I don't think there'll be anything less than like 5 founders that will actually give you an internship, for things like that. Incentive, I think initiative is like so rare, along with like, what Akhil was saying about like critical thinking. Really being like a bit individualistic in that sense is definitely super valuable to have, in like today's age. And the problem doesn't even have to be at a startup, right? Like you could try to build a startup yourself. Like, there are existing problems you feel nobody has really solved for. Trying to go after that yourself is great. And like, everyone only talks about the fact that like, 95% of startups fail, but then there's actually a win-win to be found over there, right? Like when I spent like 5 years trying to get the previous startup to work, and then towards the end, it was like, oh my God, this is done. My life is over. What am I going to do now? What I didn't realize was that I spent 6 years trying to build like document AI systems, and that ended up being super valuable in the industry. Different people came and like offered me like CTO roles and different stuff like that. I got a bit of FOMO because by then I'd already committed to like starting this pharma AI venture with Guru, who's like my current co-founder. But definitely, I think the most underrated people in like the next workforce will be the curious ones, right? Because like I think curiosity wins at the end of the day. All the experience that Vivek, Akhil, and I have built, let's say over the last decade, it could end up being meaningless in the next 5 years, right? So at the end of the day, the people that really stay ahead are the ones that like continue to go ahead with like curiosity. There are always going to be better ways to do things, and like that's just how this space is like starting to evolve into, I feel.
Thank you so much for these very insightful answers from your experience. So, Mr. Vishnu, as you just mentioned that AI is transitioning every day, every day something new is coming up. So, do you believe that a postgrad degree like a PhD or a master's is even valuable in the field of AI and ML?
I think it still is. I think it really comes down to like which university you're doing it from. An undergrad, you can still get away with like not any college, but I think where you do like a postgrad or a PhD, that really matters. And yeah, definitely do it only if like you have that intention of like, getting into like core AI. You want to be part of like, these models that get built and like new innovations around that. But that being said, like, I think the barrier to enter this space has definitely come down, right? I don't have any master's, PhD, nothing. But from whatever work we did, 2021, like Manish, the prof from IIIT, and I, we actually have like we got like one paper published. We got like one US approved patent on like some of the early work we did, and it was just like going after these things with like curiosity. So I think at the end of the day, like yeah, it really just comes down to that, like stay curious and like keep trying to figure things out.
If you know what you want, then it makes sense to go for masters and PhD. You should know what you want out of that course, right?
Yeah.
If you think that my life is not going anywhere, what to do? Let me go to MBA. Nothing is going to help in that scenario, right? Undergrad is the only place where you can do that. But in a postgrad, a PhD, you do it deliberately, saying that I'm going to do this and I'm going to get this out of them, right? I'm going to do, even if you do an MBA, it need not be a master's in engineering courses, right? Master's, MS in some computer science related branch or anything else like that. Even if you're doing an MBA, same thing will apply. And this I've seen I did the 1 year full-time course from IIM background, right? So this course is ISP equivalent, where they require you to have like 6 years of work experience before you get in. In that course also, I had people who had just come there because they wanted to escape the current jobs they were in. Very smart folks, but they were not really clear on what they want out after this job. After this course, what do they really want to do, right? And then they are landing in jobs which are just coming onto the campus, and then career trajectories are changing because of that, right? Same way, 2-year MBA, a lot of folks do that. They just do that MBA because you gave CAT, got group percentile, you gave interview, you are in. Now you are into that MBA, and you did not really study Violet bits, and then you did not really study Violet. I have Bangalore, I have Ahmedabad as well, and then I'm not going to name the person, but then you end up as sales guy in Pepsi. Did you really want to do that? No idea, but that's the job you got, right? Maybe you would have wanted something else out of life, but because you did not know really what you want out of MBA, you land up there, right? And I've seen other people also. I have a friend who undergrad wise did not perform well, but at IIM Ahmedabad, he studied really, really, really hard, got into investment banking, is in UK now, being an investment banker over there. Now, both of them are successful, right? The guy is also successful. He's a head of sales for Mondelez, doing really great work over there. But his career trajectory got chosen because of his GPA into the college and not because of his own control. He is successful in it because he's smart, and he would have been successful in any field which he gets into, right? If you work hard and you are a smart person, you would be successful in whatever field you touch. So postgrad is an option. You only pick it up if you want to, and if you know really well what you want out of it, then you would get the most value out of it, right? So it's not about that, hey, if I want to get into AI, I need to do this. No, it doesn't work like that, like Vishnu just said, right? But if you want to get into neural network research, you want to say, I want to get into the math behind it, I want to be a researcher in this, I want to be a professor, I want to be whatever I'm doing is going to help like this, then go for it. It will definitely help. It's not, more education is always better thing to do, right? And obviously good from a good college, right? Don't just go for any college. Then you are just doing time pass or dealing the inevitable where you have to join the workforce or be more productive, right? So to get into AI, you don't really get into any field. You don't really need to do masters, but if you are doing masters, it helps. But then you should know why you are doing that masters, what you're going to do there, what you're going to learn out of it, and how will it impact your trajectory later on.
Yeah, so I'll again try to come with a different point of view here. Again, building on what Vishnu and Akhil just now mentioned. So first, that is very important that you should know what you want to do and then accordingly choose your path. And if we particularly talk about AI and doing PhD or higher studies in the domain, I would see it from a pure AI perspective, which is like I will divide the AI architecture into 5 layers, right? It is a known thing today that there are 5 layers to it, and you have to decide which layer you are going to attack into or get into. So if you are planning only to get into the application layer of it, you definitely don't need a PhD or a master's or any deep dive course to get into the application layer of it, which is actually mostly the case in India, because the deep research in India is very rare. The likes of OpenAI or Anthropic. So these guys, they are pushing the boundaries, they are pushing the limits of what AI can do, right? And the application layer sitting on top of that is using those capabilities. So to be on the application layer, you don't really need to do a PhD. But yes, if you want to push the boundaries of what a technology like AI can do, then definitely I would recommend a PhD or at least a master's or a deep dive course, because that will help you make build stronger fundamentals and getting the insight of how actually things work and how they can be innovated further, right? If we will not go into that depth, so we will never be able to push the boundaries. We will be able to create, and by the way, that is also not bad. So applications are endless. So if we want to be at that level, that layer, so it is good enough, right? So there is a lot of potential in that layer as well. So again, it comes down to what you want to do, right? If you want to actually change the paradigm, actually change how the game is being played today, so you will have to do a deep dive. That is what I think.
Thanks, Vivek, for sharing that. This was really insightful. I believe students often get confused between data science, AI research, and machine language engineering. Did you ever face such confusions? What would your advice be for such students?
So there are a few different things, and this is important because it is a confusing thing in enterprise as well. Who to call business analyst, who to call data scientist, data engineer, etc. Right? See, everything is stats in end. AI is nothing. Large language models are transformer architecture based neural networks. So if you want to learn neural networks, then you have to go even deeper than that and say that I have to learn statistics, then I have to learn data distributions or distributions of the number systems itself, right? So this is not something which is completely unique. AI is not separate from data science. It's just an application of it, or you can say, if I have to draw a Venn diagram, they all overlap, right? So it starts from learning number systems and what kind of distributions exist in number systems, then goes on to say that, hey, I will learn about supervised and supervised algorithms, and then go on to say there's a category of data statistical models called unsupervised, which is neural networks, which can form patterns, which is what your large language models are. So this has taken over decades of transformation to reach today where we are, where we say that these large language models exist, which are able to do these things and are able to answer questions and know all the things in the world and do wonderful things. But all of them in end work from doing statistical models, right? So one is that understanding the stats behind it, so that you are able to look at data and say which thing works better, right? How exactly those things work. Second thing is there is engineering associated with it, because you have to use large amount of data to do all of this. So you're talking about data engineering, which is to say, hey, I understand what Hadoop does, how Snowflake works, how Databricks work, but that's just pure engineering, right? This is basically knowing engineering systems which work on cloud, understanding how they work, and be able to code the pipelines which are required for it, right? The data scientists would also be doing coding in Python, but they are doing the coding for the experiment to run or for model to run, right? So so that is the second part of data scientists will be doing. Then you say that, hey, all of this has to be served to people, and for that I need a web application for this to be served. So that's a complete computer science related application of building web applications, which has the backends, middleware, front ends, and you are now a web app developer or a full stack web app developer, right? So now with AI, all these things will look like flattened out, saying that somebody who is a full stack web app developer can also develop agents, right, and solve some real world problems. But they're all, like Vivek just said, they're all doing application layer still. We are just inferring what things are happening over there, right? So inferencing using large language models, and then they have a lot of applications like that which can be done, because you are not building large language model, you're just using it, right? Whereas any other statistical model out there, apart from large language models, you can't just use them out of the market. They need to know your data, and this means you need to train them or fine tune them, right? And then, which essentially means you need to understand data science and the business problem and the engineering behind it to make it happen. Even in large language models, easier to use GPT 5.1 on an API, right? But if somebody tells you, why don't you take Llama 8B, a small model, right, and then fine tune it for your use case and then use it, So then you would need to know what is fine tuning, how does it work, how do the weights change, so that you can prepare your data correct. Then it requires large data to be prepared. So you need data engineering to do it. So you need to know how to store your data efficiently, how to run it efficiently on GPUs, how to use CUDA to make it happen. Then suddenly we're talking about all these skill sets that come together, right? So if you want to crack into data science or data engineering or be an application developer on top of data, depending upon the role which you're going for, the first set of skill sets which you would need will differ, right? Application layer, we're talking about data engineering more and application building more, right? Plus problem solving. If you want to get into data science, then you're talking about learning statistics first and associated Python coding with it, right? Or if you talk about just being data engineer who handles large volume of data, then you're talking about running applications like Snowflake, Databricks, so that you can handle those applications a lot better, right? So depending upon the role, skill sets have to be picked up. If you say that I don't know what to pick up and where to start, then I would say start with statistics first, understand that, start building applications using that, and then graduate into building full stack applications on top of it as well. Other way around also works. You can learn full stack first and then go there. Really depends upon where your interest starts, so that you have the core done and then you can move out, right? Like my brain works in data first, hence, and probably my career also started there because of that. So I learned that first and then I learned full stack web development later on, right? But you can start with full stack web development and go into data science also. But yeah, end to end is something which you need to learn. There is no two ways on that in terms of learning all of this. I hope it clears out what each role means and the three different type of skill sets which are really required today.
Yes, yes, it does, Akhil. And I would say that definitions don't matter much, right? So, like you said that uh, when you are thinking about end-to-end project or a task, then definitions are, as you rightly said, they are overlapping. So if you draw a Venn diagram, they will be overlapping, and maybe it just slightly differs in the abstraction level. Like AI will include many components to it. Then machine learning will be a science of algorithms. Deep learning will be again a part of machine learning. So they are all interrelated. Right? Even I have seen people calling general automation as AI. So it's normal automation. They just call it AI and they start flaunting that, yeah, they are using AI into the system. That hardly matters. So definition, I think, and in fact, there are many applications where AI is an overkill. So
Correct.
you don't really need AI to solve certain problems, and you are trying to just push in AI just to claim that you are using AI into your organization or your project. That is also not good. So yeah, it's all definitions. You should really see what the requirement of the task is, requirement of the project is, and apply the skills accordingly. So of course you should be clear with definitions, but that is up to that only. So when it comes to application and really doing a project, so you need to know what is required in the project, what skills are required, what technology is required, and then use it appropriately.
Yeah. Go beyond superficial is the message which comes across again and again, right? Like
Yeah.
I use LangGraph to build an agent is not impressive anymore. And it's not just about anymore. It has never been impressive to just say that I used a library to do something.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever you can find online easily, everybody can find online easily. Key skill set is that you showed some curiosity, like Vishnu said, and dug it up and then went a level beyond other candidates are going. So you're competing with the candidate pool. Now, you're always competing with yourself to become better. But for a job interview, you're competing with that candidate pool. And everybody's gonna come and say the same thing, that I built this multi-agent framework. Like, big deal. Everybody's saying it, right? How did you operationalize it? How did you think about it more? Do you understand the basics of it so that you can answer a few questions around it? Thinking on your feet. That is the key part, right? Like I've seen people, I've built a RAG pipeline. So what is the embeddings? How do they really work? What does the cosine similarity mean? No idea. Right? Like, come on, you can go one step extra and just really understand what cosine similarity means and how mathematically it works. And that is more impressive than saying that I built this and put it into production, but I don't know what cosine similarity means. Then I don't trust you when you say you put it into production without actually understanding how core tech here is working out, right? So that part of getting the depth into whatever you're doing is important, right? Like, I should get overwhelmed by the talk which you're giving me on your own project, thinking, okay, this person has done their research. They are giving me details which I'm not even asked for now because this is a real project, right? So to make it so much real in your head when you start talking about it.
Any insights from your side, Mr. Vishnu?
Hey, I'm sorry, I've lost a bit of track. Just to make sure my response is focused, what was the question?
So just the question was, students often get confused between data science, AI research, and ML.
Okay.
So
I mean, there's this whole thing about like, let's say AI replacing full stack engineers now, right? Like, our the team in the current startup is really small. We have only one other full-time guy. It's just him, me, three interns, and we've been building the whole application out. He's a full stack engineer, right? So I think don't get intimidated by whatever is going on. It's I think at the end of the day, it's all about like what do you really care about. There are people out there that love building like designing like front end software, and like even though they're saying like AI is going to replace front end engineers, the way I see it, the guy or girl that understands front end engineering the most are the people that are going to be the best users of like AI to build like front end sort of applications, right? It's a very like counterintuitive thing that you think, oh my god, my job is going to get replaced, but what's actually going to happen is you may end up becoming like a manager of like five like front end developing sort of agents. Like they're really, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is agency, right? Who gets things done. I think those are the people that are going to stay irrespective of like what happens. So it really comes down to curiosity, Bhavya. Like if there's someone that like like Akhil said, is like really curious about how these models work, how do these weights get set in this way, and like how is this magic happening out of it, great. um uh, Personally, I've been very interested around like say peripheral models that say work around like say around like processing documentation and like understanding data, building tooling like for our tool Astra, right? Like or even broadly with like AI agents today, the biggest gap right now is like actually tooling. I don't know if you guys know about OpenClaw, but if you not, then definitely look it up. This guy was going to some like wedding in like some middle of nowhere sort of country with not great internet, and he basically wanted to continue to do work. So he ships this project called OpenClaw, where he can like talk to an AI agent that has full access to his computer remotely. So he was basically sending his AI agent like messages on like Telegram and WhatsApp to get things done, and things were actually getting done. And then like he open sourced it on GitHub, and then the whole world gets to know. And then within like 30 days, Sam Altman hires him and says like, this guy is going to define the future of agents. Like there are so many new opportunities and problems that are already starting to come in as a result of like, what's happening. So I think Akhil or Vivek, one of them had said that also earlier, that like, we are like early in the wave. That is the truth right now. It's almost like the internet wave and like the next Google or the next Microsoft has not necessarily like come out yet, and like they're like different kinds of companies that will start coming out now, right? So there's like doing things traditionally that have already been done, like say full stack, front end, DevOps, right? The people that really care about those will still do an amazing job even with AI coming in. There's the whole aspect of like model training on like how do you like say take open source models and like fine tune them in like really particular areas. There's a lot of work on vertical AI, right? Like so like how do you kind of draft contracts, so like how do you like even one such a big like unsolved problem right now is actually just building out like AI first level sort of lawyers to like consult people over phone calls, right? Something as simple as that could be so valuable, because you can build this whole funnel of like different customers that have different needs and then map them to the correct law firm based on where they're present. Like that's something that just doesn't exist today, right? India, US, anywhere. So yeah, I think I would come back to basics, saying like it's really your curiosity that matters in all of this right now. Don't get intimidated by what's going on. Focus on that personal signal on like as an individual, what do I care about? And like I think that's how you can like really make sense of things like going ahead. Like when I graduated, I was just doing all of this because I liked it. I had no idea how things were going to pan out, but only now like 6-7 years into my journey after graduating can I actually look back and like connect the dots on like, oh okay, like these are like 10 different things I ended up doing that actually end up being like, useful today. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about like, following curiosity.
Thank you so much for a great answer. So, as we know that the AI field has diversified very much with specific tools coming in for very specified tasks. So, for a beginner student, it becomes very confusing. So, as to what fundamentals he or she has to focus. So, what do you believe are the most important subjects a student should focus on, like linear algebra, probabilities, statistics, deep learning, or system designing?
Yeah. Those are
I
what you
should say
mentioned are not
I
tools.
got a, hey, sorry, Akhil, just one point. I should say
Yeah.
I got a C in linear algebra in bits. I'm not saying you should not study. Definitely study and work hard. But yeah, I think like Akhil said, like getting like that deep into it is really required only when you're like really kind of like trying to design the next generation of models itself.
So again, Bhavya, what you mentioned are not tools. They are the core subjects, right? Tools are LangGraph, LangChain, scikit-learn. Those are the tools which you use to implement statistical models for AIs, right? So uh, yes, I mean, not saying like Vishnu said again, not like I also got A grades, 6 point GPA, so there were no A grades at all in my grade sheets as well. But understanding how linear algebra works is important, right? If you want to get into AI field, right? And unlike, I mean, if you say that I don't really care about AI, I want to basically build a tool which I'm going to take to the market, then it's not really about you understanding AI or not. It's about you being an entrepreneur. And then the skill set required is completely different, right? There is a path to building something like Servam AI by being a PhD and being an educationalist as well. But there is also a path where Sam Altman is not a data scientist himself, but he has built the largest AI company out there, right? By just being the fact that he's a great entrepreneur and knows how to build these companies, right? Not like Elon Musk is a unlike Bill Gates, Elon Musk is also not a rocket scientist, right? So, so those are two different paths. Don't confuse them, right? Like if you want to get a job into data science field, then yes, your data science concept should be clear. And if you are confused about whether I should learn LangGraph or LangChain or agentic AI, there are 5 different agentic AI systems out there. Doesn't really matter. Pick one and learn because all of them have the same fundamentals which you just talked about, right? So, should you do deep learning systems? Yeah, you should study about them. But can you study about them before ensuring that you understand what unsupervised supervised algorithms are? No, right? So let's go through that first. And all of this, the level of depth which you really need is not that high, right? Like if you go through some of the Udemy courses also, what you understand from there at a base level would be good enough to is through interviews as well. But there are people who don't even do that. That's the problem, right? So, and then say, yeah, I'm not able to get a job or I'm not able to crack something like this, right? Like, so you have to be able to do that, right? Like, and I'll stress on this again, uh, building applications which use LLMs or other things, and need not use AI also, but solves a problem out there for which people are going to pay you. That's an entrepreneur skill. That doesn't require linear algebra for sure. But if you want to take a job as a data scientist, you apply to like some Microsoft or like any company out there which is gonna hire you as a data scientist, right? And then you would need to know some of these things, right? Unless and until they hire you in name of data scientist, but all they really want you to do is write Python code. Uh, there are companies out there like that, so be wary and don't get stuck into that because you'll just end up messing your profile, right? So. It doesn't matter whether you study this course at BITS or not. You can yourself go talk to ChatGPT about that course, start interacting with it just to ask questions, learn, read, learn, read, learn. Go into that cycle, and you can learn enough so that you can have a conversation with somebody, be able to apply it in the real life scenario when you come across it into your job, right? And then learn it further as it comes along, right? Like you need not know every type of statistical model out there. Most of those learnings I've done when I've done actual projects with clients on these models, right? Before them, I only knew them cursorily. Like, okay, I knew that exist. I know what technology is to be used for, but what exactly nuances happen in that you only learn when you do the real life project, right? So, courses you have to do, right? tooling is fine, but the linear algebra is not tooling. Linear algebra is a basic course. Tooling is LangChain, right? Scikit-learn, that is tooling. Using profit for forecasting, that's tooling. Okay.
Actually, I have a
Okay,
very
thanks.
different definition of tooling right now, right? It's more of how, like, at least, like, say, if you're looking at it from an AI agent standpoint, for me, tooling actually means like how do you get AI to like interact with different sort of systems? A
Correct.
lot of that is still not built out yet,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like, even with Astra, we had to build out a way for our agent to both interact with Microsoft Word so that it can co-draft these submissions with pharma teams. But then it also had to have a lot of tooling in place to like interact with the relevant source data that had to be looked at for like, drafting it. Or guys, even check out like this startup called Giga ML. It's a YC company, bunch of like 22, 23-year-olds, and it's insane what they've done. They basically built out like end-to-end tooling for an AI agent to like kind of run its own like contact center, meaning like ways to access tickets, ways to access knowledge bases, ways to interact with the app itself so that they can do actions from like, the admin side to like figure stuff out. And like they end up getting like DoorDash, I think, as their first customer, which is like a Swiggy in America. And like this bunch of like IIT Madras kids, like, they just randomly applied to YC and said like customer support is still broken. So many customer support companies, no one's really cracking it. We'll crack it. And like, but yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to iterate that like a lot of these things are still being like, figured out right now. So it's definitely, I would again just iterating again, like, don't get intimidated by what's going on. Sometimes I get intimidated myself. It's really all about like, ignoring the noise and like focusing on the signal. Like, what do you as an individual, like, really care about? Try to figure that out and like, and I guess the only way to figure that out is by trying things out.
Correct.
Yeah, trying things out is very important. I'll also second that. And as a hiring manager, I personally, what I like to see in the candidate is a thought related to building for scale. So that is what AI is all about. Uh, Many SaaS applications today are using AI, and for that, what is basic is to think about an architecture which actually takes the application to scale, right? It should not be a toy application or just a college project kind of a thing. So if I have to suggest some tools or some courses or some subjects, so I would say that yes, courses from platforms like Coursera or specialized courses into certain domains that can help. And then also getting acquainted with certain famous papers of the domain, right? So there are certain groundbreaking papers who actually which actually are the foundational papers, like Attention Is All I Need and things like that. So you need to at least know about these things, and you need to know the core concept behind it, because for any LLM or uh, any neural AI model today, these are the foundational papers, right? So you should know what their thesis was, and you don't really need to read through the paper and try to understand it. There are lots of YouTube channels who are actually explaining these papers, the famous papers. So try to follow those channels and try to understand what these papers are all about. Why are they so famous, right? And what are these big models based on? So at least if you want to go into deep dive other than the application layer, then at least it is better to have a look at those kind of things also.
Thanks, Vivek. That was a really good insight. In your opinion, how should students prepare for AI and ML internships, and what common mistakes do you think students do while preparing for such roles?
So yes, again, I would say that get your hands dirty with the real code and real work, real project. So doing only courses will not help you, because doing courses today is and getting certifications is again very easy with the help of AI, right? You start a short course, and in the end, if you have to get a certification, you want to clear up some project, some exercises of that, you can give it to Chat GPT and get that done. So just getting courses done or getting certifications is not enough today. For getting internship or job in the desired field, I think it includes a lot of components to it. One is doing good projects, and if you are, of course, in college level, you are not going to take it at scale, right? Until unless you have formed a company out of your project. But the architecture should be such that it should be scalable. That is one thing. Second thing is get yourself present on platforms like LinkedIn, right? So there are lots of resources today, lots of people who are willing to help, lots of companies who need good students as interns. So get yourself there where people might be looking for you, and LinkedIn is one such platform. And I believe that your network is your net worth, right? So start utilizing the alumni of BITS and your network, and start getting acquainted in the professional world, right? Try to build that bridge from the academic world to the professional world yourself, right? Because it's very crowded today, and until unless you stand out by one thing or the other, you will not be noticed, you will not get noticed, right? Shine your Git profile, shine your LinkedIn profile. So sometimes even myself have been looking into Git profiles of users whom I was interviewing in the past, to see that what was the frequency of check-ins in the Git, right? Those can be very basic things you are checking in, but at least it shows your activity. It shows that you are active and you have been curious, right? So companies generally are not looking for the best candidates. Companies are looking for the best appropriate candidates, right? So every role has an appropriate candidate, and that candidate does not necessarily be the best candidate in the world. So, first of all, you don't need to be disheartened if you are rejected. So, and in fact, when I was doing job, so whenever I used to change a job, I used to do practice interviews. I used to apply in the companies where I did not really want to go. And there I actually got into form from, and then I used to start in applying into the companies where I really targeted to. So you have to strategize it for yourself. A strategy for one may not be the best strategy for the other. So every individual has to have his or her own strategy to land an internship or a job of his or her choice, right? And you have to first of all define also that don't be desperate. So no interviewer wants to see a desperate candidate, right? So so you have to first of all choose what you want and try to get that, and don't start sounding, when I say that build your network on LinkedIn or things like that, don't start spamming people, right? Don't start sounding desperate and start reaching out to everyone in their personal messages. First of all, just send a request, your LinkedIn request, and then start sending their resume, your resume. That's not a good practice to do. So you have to take an approach, a good approach, and you have to make it sound like you are professional enough that you value other person's time and you are bringing some value on the table for that person. If that person, for example, a company is not requiring an intern, you will not get an internship, howsoever good you are in your field or whatever, right? So so an approach has to be defined, a strategy has to be defined, and you need to know what you are aiming for and then prepare for that. That is what I would suggest.
Right. So, like Vivek said, right, some depth is needed. You showcase a project. You say that you've done this special work, because it's just not enough to now say that I've got good grades. Works for PS, but outside of that, if you want to get an internship or start with applying on jobs also, right? Just having acads is not good enough anymore. But that is thing which has happened across the systems, right? Like complexity of things keeps on increasing as the world progresses further. and the baseline which is required to hit it off also goes up, right? Like some 20 years back, you could just build a API for banking and voila, PhonePe, right? Or you could just build an online broker and then you've got Zerodha. Can you do that today? Not really, right? Like if you want to build another Zerodha, it's a lot more complex to do it today than it was 15 years back when they actually built Zerodha. So, and because complexity has increased, competition has increased, and the baseline has gone up. Same way, if you guys are more closer to entrance exams, right? Like preparing for BITSAT or IIT, JEE entrance exams, 80s, it was a lot more easier. If you just studied, you would get through 2000s also. But as 2010, 2020s came along, it's just not good enough that you actually gave out your best and studied. There is a luck factor also that you're kicking in because so many people are doing good enough that ideally speaking, if you have like 1 lakh seats, even then you would fill them up with good students, right? So it's just luck now, right? So same way complexity has increased, and to showcase that you are better than the rest of the candidates, you have to show work which you have done out of your interest, right? So you want to say that, hey, I'm applying for an agentic AI developer, then show me some work which you have done. And it need not be work which is done from the point of view of saying that I'm going to build a company or I've got an idea, right? Like, I'll just give a simple example. One of the candidates I had interviewed, you know what they did? They took judgments from Supreme Court PDFs, right? So they had an idea that they would build some company around it. But they were obviously, while they were fostering the idea, they wanted to apply for jobs. So they were showcasing this project, right? Now, those judgments are on PDF files. They have a lot of nuances in them. They only tried to ingest like 100 of them and make sense of that data, right? So they studied using ChatGPT on what these judgments are, how are they structured, how can I extract and prioritize information from it, how can I make sure that my cost for extracting it is low, then how can a RAG chatbot on top of it work, right? Very simple project, 100 PDFs only, but there is a domain associated with it, right? They're trying to categorize those, they're trying to get insights out of it, they're trying to extract entities from it, then they're saying, I'm going to build a knowledge graph on it and connect all of them together to see which cases are connected, right? So all of those are real life problems which people face today when building agents and doing RAG frameworks. So that is really, really impressive work, right? That you thought of this, out of curiosity, did this, spent a month doing it, you learned a lot of good things which actually happen in industry. And this just shows me you are the curious person who, if I hire and give them a problem statement to solve, no matter what, you will get it done, right? Because out of your own interest, you did this, right? Versus saying that, hey, I went to Unacademy and did a course and they had 2 projects in it and I did those projects and then you're not able to answer me in depth on those projects also. So like Vishnu said, certifications don't really matter. What really matters is that you set aside yourself using the work which you have done and think about it. Always keep thinking about it, keep building it out. If you luck out, it might just become a company and you might become an entrepreneur. But even if you don't, and you just did it as a passion project, then when you show it to others, it will show as a passion project, right? Like once you have experience of working for 5 years in a company, you can show the work done in that company to the next when you jump jobs, right? Because you've already done some work. But as a fresher, what are you going to show? So show this kind of thing, right? Like at campus, you don't have any excuse to say that I only did studying or I only did gaming. If you only did gaming, then talk about that. Like I distinctly remember Cognizant interview I cracked by talking to them about Age of Empires and how it helped me understand power of teams, team building and leading teams, right? So recruiters and people who are sitting there from freshers, they don't really expect you're gonna solve some real world problems out there or you're gonna be all Einsteins. But if you show passion and if you show that you've done something which you are really passionate about, thought about it deeply, and you show that you can think deep, that is what is really, really important. Because those are the kind of people you can bring in for them to learn quickly and then depend upon that they will get work done.
Yeah. I have, just to add to Akhil's point, I have like one senior from college. I think he's 4 years older than me. So when I was in first year, he was in fifth year, dual degree guy. Didn't do anything, just played football all day and then all night he was playing poker with his buddies. And then everybody wrote him off, from seniors, juniors, professors, everyone. He gets like a 20 lakh like product manager job at Zynga Poker, because they're like, chalo, this guy's been playing like poker for like almost half his life now. His insights would be valuable for us to improve the product. So just yeah. I think find problems that you care about and then build undeniable proof that you can solve the problem for them. Like if I was a student right now and let's say I cared about fashion, I would probably figure out how to like take a picture of my wardrobe and then like get like auto recommended like clothes available online that I would like to buy based on my wardrobe, and then show that project to people at like, doing like frontier AI stuff in fashion tech. It could be some like AI product manager in like Nykaa. It could be some like independent. There are a lot of like independent, like, fashion tech companies that have sort of like come out. And like, this is just like a very niche example, but like, I think all of us as people, as a result of all the experiences we've gone up to until now, everyone has their own box that they can play in, right? Like something that they can get decently good at, that like more importantly, they really like doing. So I think it's all about like trying to figure that out and like, just try to ship things and really see how that goes.
Yeah. That similar to what Vishnu you just said. Now, I remembered one friend of mine at BITS. He had entered an interview and said, "So what do you really do? What is your passion?" And he said, "I'm into stocks." So interviewer casually asked, "What's the Reliance stock price?" And he said, "This is the price." And he's like, "No, that is not the price." I'm like, "No, that is the price. I just checked 5 minutes before I entered the interview." Right. So. Passion is not what really gets you there, right? And then obviously somebody might come back and say that my company doesn't do stocks, so I'm not going to hire you. You will have those kind of things also happen, but like at least today, people who are not showing some passionate thing about what they are applying for are not getting through, no matter what. Right, so just a CADS is no more, unfortunately, enough. And conversion is also true. It doesn't really matter what your CGPA is if you come in and show that kind of passion in some kind of work which you're applying for. You're applying for an agentic AI engineer, you've done that project, then you're a lot better than anybody who might have 9 CGPA but has never done this kind of work before. And they're just applying. And I've seen candidates like that, right? Like really great at CADS. Why are you applying for data science? Oh, sir, because your company came to campus and they're offering good package. Like for me, that is not good enough, right? If you're a great computer science guy, your undergrad course and what projects you have done are more front-end web development projects, then you're not a great fit in my team. Right, my team requires people who have this kind of experience, and so I don't really care about your CADS. What I care about is that do you understand my world or not?
Thank you so much, sir. I believe that answer would definitely help the students in the upcoming placement season. So now we would like to open the meeting for the audience. If they have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions.
OST happened. Oh yeah, there's the question. Hey, hi Venkat.
Good evening, sir. My question is about the fact that over the last few years, we have seen many problems like PDF parsing and many startups which were revolved around like making slides and stuff. And another example would be Perplexity, which was initially revolutionary for like combining search with, with AI. And now all of these types of ideas have almost been like eaten up by the big giants like Google, because Notebook LM is now doing all the slides part, and Google has integrated its AI into the search bar. So like as Vivek sir mentioned about the 5-layer framework, in the application layer, how do we construct like a moat so that in the long run we can actually sustain ourselves?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Venkat. And so first of all, identifying this very fact that creating a moat is something very critical today to survive is itself, it is showing that you are thinking in the right direction. Because without moat, it's very difficult for any startup to sustain. AI has made it so easy for a new entrant to enter into any domain that as soon as you come up with a new idea or a so-called groundbreaking idea, the next year you will see tens of competitors with deeper pockets into the same idea. right? So one way which we particularly think about creating a moat is getting into a vertical, getting deep into a vertical. So more you try to go into breadth, easier or more vulnerable you are to these bigger giants, right? So what happens is that companies like OpenAI, Cloud, Google, they are they are basically the technology providing companies, and using those technologies, people actually develop applications. Now, a recent trend which we have started seeing, as you mentioned, through Perplexity, is that they are coming into verticals also, and that is actually a danger for only application companies. So that is why it becomes kind of important to get into the next layer of that 5-layer architecture, which is the models or core AI. So try to build something in the core part which is actually pushing the boundary, and it is proprietary to you, right? Until unless you will go into that depth, or you will choose a vertical, until unless you choose a vertical which is something where you have a domain expertise, you will always remain vulnerable to these big giants, right? So for example, we at Minions, we have chosen a very niche vertical, which is public procurement, government tendering. And why we chose that was because we had a deep domain knowledge of that vertical. So through our parent company, which is Yugasa Software Labs, we actually used to apply government tenders, and we have won in many of them, and we are working with a lot of government departments today through Yugasa. And we found that this process of government tendering is broken, right, left, and center. It is so-called digital today, but still it is very unstructured, and it is a huge market. So 22% of India's GDP is actually from public procurement. So that is the volume in which government procures from the private sector. Still, the sector is unattended, completely unattended. And companies like OpenAI or Google or Microsoft, they are very unlikely to actually start building in this depth in this domain. And on top of that, we are training our custom models there, right? Which is actually taking time, and it takes a lot of data cleaning, all those things. So we are creating a moat there, and with a very good speed, we are entering into the market. We are seeing the traction. So that is very important, and you need to know the domain knowledge, and try to create a niche there to actually create that moat. So I'm not sure if that was helpful, and if this generally applies to all the domains. If you are getting into a very generic domain like chatbots or things like that today, so it's very, very difficult to create a moat there. It's a red ocean, and you have to really see what differentiator or what USP you are coming with. So that is very important today.
Yeah, that's a great point. I fully agree with Vivek. I think that's something I learned from the previous startup and the current startup, right? Like previous startup, we were trying to build a lot of infrastructure, which was great. But if I had to go back and do that startup now, I would have been a lot more focused on it. Like build
Yes.
like open source projects on top of the infrastructure, go very, very developer first. Instead of that, what I tried to do was I tried to go to multiple industries at the same time. Like we were selling to banks, airports, law firms, edtechs, insurance companies. The way each vertical operates is wildly different.
Exactly.
Right. So like in this venture, because I partnered with that sort of Ames Delhi and like ex Novartis sort of guy, he was the one that really understood like, what has to be built.
Yes.
And I had the right sort of experience over the last few years to kind of figure out, okay, how to build it. And then we were basically able to like, put two and two together. So domain focus is a great way to build another moat. Another form of moat is definitely speed.
Yes.
Historically, until ChatGPT came out, people would build complex software and then they would be able to happily sit on it for like 3 to 5 years at a stretch and just monetize the hell out of it, right? Those are the kind of cycles for competition. With the way things are right now, I think the cycle for competition has pretty much become a quarter. Meaning, if you do something cool today, it's very likely someone else is going to do it like 90 days from now. right? So when you kind of deal with that sort of competition, the only way to kind of survive is to keep moving ahead, because the models are going to keep improving now quarter by quarter.
And actually, both these things are interrelated, I would say, Vishnu.
Yeah.
That so you will not be able to achieve that speed until unless you go into a depth, because there used to be a time when the breadth used to be a USP. Like we do this, we do that, we do everything. But today, to achieve speed, you have to have a vertical selected for yourself, and with a deep domain knowledge around that vertical, then only get into the market, so that after that you have to just open your tabs to get onto speed. So speed and vertical selection, they are both very much interrelated, and these are, as Vishnu said, very important to create that moat.
It's helpful, Vivek, but I still feel like even without domain knowledge, even without say experience in a particular vertical, there might be a way to really compete. I think it really
Hire people with experience. So domain knowledge, of course, you cannot know each and every domain. So if you don't know a domain, then hire people around
So
that.
if
You
you
partner with people with that domain.
So with speed, there is a second caveat, right? Like if you do a wrong step, then you're also doing that wrong thing 10x faster
Yes.
as well. So,
And that
so you
is
need
still
some
better, I
domain
think.
expertise to make sure that you don't do the mistake 10x faster than not, and then do the right step, right? Like you just said, Vishnu, you
No,
got
no,
as a partner.
I really feel that I believe in the statement, die first and die fast. There
Correct.
is no point bleeding for a long time. If you
No,
have
no,
taken a wrong step, you will realize it
no,
faster. And
let things break.
there is no harm. There is no
Yeah,
harm.
let
I
break.
completely agree. So the two
The new
different things,
builders
right?
are
One is saying that experiment fast and fail fast. Agreed, right? So you are doing that with knowing that this is an experimentation. Second is you bet huge and deploy a lot of resources on a completely wrong thing because you did
yeah,
not do any
that's
better.
fatal. That's
Yeah,
fatal.
that's right. So
Yeah,
that is what domain expertise helps you from doing. And
of
there's a
course.
good example, like
Yeah.
Vishnu just talked about his own experience. There's a France-based company. They came out with insect-based protein, and they just died this year, right? And they came up. They started some 3 years back. They raised $152 million in funding. And what they tried to do was they first said that we will enter the market of feed for animals, right? So protein for feed for pigs and cows and whatnot. Second, then they said we are going to enter the pet food market. Then they said we are going to enter the human market, right? For protein for human.
Yeah,
Now,
so that is
product
very
is same.
tempting actually. So
Huh.
after a certain
But
stage, diversifying and getting into different domains is very tempting, but that is what we
right,
need to
right,
avoid.
because you couldn't. They are three different markets, even though the
Yeah.
products are being served is same. It's the same protein which comes out of there, but the way to sell it, the way to position the product in all of these markets is very, very different. Competition is also different. In
Yes.
in in feed market, you're competing with soy from US farmers, right? In pet market, you're competing with the giants who are already making food for pets and people treat their pets as kids. In human market, you have to break. You're competing against the stigma of insect protein itself and not really within a food. So
Mhm.
when you're competing with three different products in three different markets, doesn't matter whether your product is same, you take missteps. So that is what domain expertise, in my opinion, means that uh, don't bet on wrong things. You can experiment with things and find out what is wrong. But
Yes.
if you fully bet on wrong things, then you're gonna die no matter what. And
Right.
that is why your domain
However,
expertise is really
in
important.
this particular example, I would say that 3 years is still fast. I have seen
Mm.
companies bleeding for decades, and for 7, 8 years is a very common thing for companies to still keep on believing that they are doing the right thing and not realizing that they are on a wrong path. So 3 years,
Yep.
I would say they are lucky if they realized it, and probably because they had investors. So that's why it was fast, because investors have that business sense and they monitor things from the
Correct.
top level view. So yeah,
And
but the
to your
market is
question,
changing very fast.
yeah,
So
and to your question, Venkat or Anirudh, whichever name you prefer, uh, yes, there is a problem of software becoming a commodity. Like Vishnu said, you would build complex software, sit on it for 3 to 5 years. I think Vivek, you said that, and amortize the cost and rent it out to people on a SaaS model. That SaaS model now has a baseline, which is moving forward, right? Anything which becomes below that baseline is not a commodity; it's inventory, right? So if you build a small tool for expense management of people and you have been renting it out to other people, other companies, now in those same companies, they're saying that, hey, in a weekend, I can build a tool like this internally. And instead of paying like 80 grand a year to somebody else, I would just have a maintenance of it done in 10 grand or 5 grand a year, right? So it's a commodity tool now. And that line of what is commodity and what is asset in terms of SaaS is moving forward, is what I feel, right? Like daily, as models can do larger and longer tasks, more and more software will become commodity, which companies can make on their own versus assets, which people not. And then in that case, you have to choose the domains, like Vivek said, where you are looking at type of customer who's not going to build their own product, right? If you are selling something to SaaS companies, they will just build it internally themselves. If you're selling to something to manufacturing companies, probably there's still scope, because a lot of the MSMEs are not going to stand up and say that I'm going to write my own SaaS using ChatGPT and host it and make it happen, right? So there is still runway over there. But eventually, I mean, in general speaking, I don't know when it will happen, and I don't want to sound like an AI doomer, but in general, if we are going to reach a stage where LLMs will improve or new tech will come and it will be AGI, where agents are super all-knowing and can code anything, then you are reaching a stage where there is no requirement for SaaS software as such at all. All the tooling is already present. Everything is connected and wired together. You just ask a question, you get an answer. If you guys have seen TV series like Expanse, that's the world, right? In Expanse world, in future 300 years from now, there are no software developers. There are mechanics, there are plumbers, there are ship pilots, right? And they all control everything using AI and spoken words, right? And you only need people where you have to actually like fix something, because surprisingly in that world there are no androids, but that could also be the future where we're looking at, right? Like iRobot type future where there are androids all over the place. So how soon it happens, don't know. But in the meantime, yeah, learning the basics is really, really important.
Thank you, sir. With that, we would be concluding our session for today. A huge thank you to Mr. Vishnu, Akhil, and Vivek for taking out their time from their busy schedules to give back to the Bitsian community. So this session was surely a huge help to the students who are trying to figure out how to build a career in AI or ML. So your journeys from the halls of bits to the heights of Silicon Valleys are a massive inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for
Thanks.
following Career Week for the past 3 days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.